Let's see. Here we go. My Windows did an update, and well, that means that all the audio stuff has to go back to default. So it looks like audio's good. Can you guys hear me? Hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to the Scarred Thumb Podcast. We're here today. We're going to be talking about Western Appeal. We're going to start. We'll get right into it. Good morning, Deborah. Good morning, X-Runner. Let's go. So this is from Nintendo Life. This is basically an article to get me started on the topic of today's Scarred Thumb episode. So this is from Nintendo Life by Ollie Reynolds. Sakurai, who is the creator of the director of the Super Smash Bros. Series. It says Japanese developers should avoid trying to appeal to Western tastes. And I think that they seek the uniqueness and fun of Japanese games as the sort of a subtitle. So, you mentioned Super Smash Bros. Creator. Good morning, Jack. Sakurai was recently awarded an Art Encouragement Prize from the Japanese government's Agency of Cultural Affairs for his remarkable achievement with the Masahiro Sakurai on Creating Games YouTube channel. It is kind of cool. I've watched, I think, one of his videos about, I don't know, it was Hit Stop or something else. I'm not 100% sure. But he does have some interesting takes. As part of that, he conducted an interview with Intax, in which he stressed the need for Japanese developers to focus on creating games with a domestic appeal rather than trying to cater to Western tastes. When asked how Japan can keep up with a booming gaming market in regions such as China, Sakurai simply stated, "It's not really my own idea, but as an industry trend, I think Japanese people should keep pursuing the things that Japanese people like." He goes on to say that the success of Japanese games in the West has led many teams in the region to join a growing trend of making Americanized works. However, he doesn't necessarily believe that Western gamers are looking for this, stating, "I think they seek the uniqueness and fun of Japanese games." His comments come as an interesting time for Silent Hill fans of all people, though not relevant for the Switch as such, maybe Switch 2 though. Recent transmission broadcast Silent Hill F highlighting a desire to bring the series back to its Japanese roots, with series Motoi Okamoto stating, as Silent Hill was based in the West for the longest time, it felt like the Japanese influence was fading. As such, the latest entry will be taking place solely in Japan. Sakurai also stressed that his opinion is just one way of looking at the topic, but we think it's a pretty sound approach. We love Japanese games here at Nintendo Life because they're so distinctly Japanese We wouldn't have it any other way. So this comes at an interesting. It comes kind of an interesting time because I just did that last if you were here last week and you listened to the episode last week talking about the sort of feminized version of Wilds and the story, I think you definitely see the difference here. I mean, when you have, let's see, like Olivia here is 100% a very westernized character design. It's the short haircut woman, no femininity whatsoever. Very, I mean, all her traits really, in like the positives about her are masculine. She's resolute, she's brave, she doesn't show any signs of weakness whatsoever. And then she has none of the positives of a woman either. Now, there's no gentleness to her. There's no really I mean, even like the vulnerability is an attractive quality, at least for men. When it comes to women. Meanwhile, you look at this is part of the screenshot. This is from Generations Ultimate XX. This is a few of the characters. This is the Meowstress. I think her name's Catalina. It's really, really great naming by the Western localizers there. But I mean, this says like these like the character designs of Monster Hunter's yesteryear here. As you can see, I tried to find like as Japanese as it gets, and I think Catgirls might be probably as Japanese as far away from Western design as you can get. Definitely a huge contrast. As they're small, fluffy, cute. They do this. They have this was from Generations Ultimate. Let me show you. They even made up these little like dances. I mean, like this is the kind of stuff they were putting in their games before. I mean, how can you get more Japanese than this like idol dance? This is the kind of stuff they were doing before they're doing Worlds and Wilds. And I did mention that in the interview a while back that Sony executive that recently retired, saying that Japan was like 10% of their market, and that kind of leads, I think, a lot of companies to think like, well, who cares what Japan wants, because if they're only 10%, then you're probably looking at, I don't know what percentage America is, or like the West. It's probably close to like 40, maybe 50. And of course, they mentioned in this China as well. So I think like Chinese tastes, at least based on like stuff that I've played from China, which is mostly just gacha games. Which that's a disturbing thought, but it's similar. It's Japanese girls. China would definitely like this kind of stuff. Kawaii cat girls dancing. I mean, if you look at stuff like Nekomata or some of the other stuff that they come out in some of these Zenless Zone Zero or like MiHoYo. Let's see, MiHoYo. What's her name? I don't know what there's the newest character that they're coming out with that everyone's super hyped on. Is this is kind of, let's see if I can find her. She's like a giant like she's like a cow that eats a lot, and she's thick, which this is kind of stuff Japan is into, or not China. I mean, this is a Chinese studio here, so I don't think you have to worry too much about that Chinese designs. I don't. How would you even say that? But it's that's coming later. So I mean, this is the kind of stuff China's making. But this is the real issue. This is what I'm personally worried about, is this type of design creeping into creeping into the space. I don't want westernized designs like this. I'd take the cowgirl or the catgirl over this, or maybe something a little less of that. Sakurai's right, absolutely. He's 100% right. I mean, it's not just that, the just the looks itself. I think there's also something uniquely Japanese as well. I mean, we look at this. So this is Jamal Johnson here. He's a former chief personnel officer at co-chair for the Democrats. What is it, NP Dems over in Delaware or something? Like, so clearly a leftist. Dark Souls kind of fails because it's designed to be inaccessible. It's a game for people who play a lot of games, and have a high tolerance for difficulty and obscure mechanics. Greatest of all time would need to appeal to everyone, even those new to the hobby. And you see, it's very hard to separate politics out from game design, unfortunately, even today, because it becomes so, stuff like this, especially like the intersectionality, has become so enmeshed in Western creatives' minds to where you have people trying to make these arguments that, we need greatest of all time. It's a good thing that everyone can play the game. If it's a game designed for people who play a lot of games, and have a high talent, it's somehow bad. I guess this is the argument he's making. That there's something bad about it. Like, a truly great game is one that everyone can enjoy, which is just an insane thing. And you see these accessibility arguments coming, I think, from leftism, where it's like there's just something anti male about these arguments, where it's like guys like a challenge, guys want they'll enjoy playing games, and if you appeal too much to that, if it seems like too much of a boys' club, then there's clearly something wrong here. And this is woke Blader responding. This kind of post should take away art across all societies is constantly in a contradiction, conflict with its market, but also why game of the time is stupid. He kind of misses the issue. I mean, and I guess it's true. Left and right have their own unique issues with art. So you could say that, but from the leftist perspective, this kind of idea that you have to make it accessible to all people, and they've been the biggest people for like accessibility push, and by accessibility they mean easy modes or pause buttons or that kind of stuff that doesn't really allow for the difficulty. Is one of the unique parts of Dark Souls. It's one of the reasons it has appeal, and it comes from, I don't know if a Western studio would make something like that. I think that is something uniquely Japanese. They used to make really hard games, but I don't know if that was intentional. Was Battletoads actually? Maybe Battletoads wasn't American. I don't know. It does seem something. What was the Battletoads studio? I mean, they made some. Western studios have made difficult games, but it's hard to say. I can't think of them off the top of my head because it's been a long time since I played Western games. No, I guess Rare made it. No, that's the new one. Trade West, yeah. Rare Founders, okay. So they did make some back in the old days. I don't know if it was intentional or it was just people trying to figure out what were the best ways to make a game. You could say maybe it's just the arcade design. Back in the day, they were still influenced by arcades more, and kind of made stuff similar to arcades. That's hard to say, but there's definitely an issue here. There's also, I think, one of the big things too, while you keep seeing Western people moving more towards Japanese games, is that they're not anti-white and they're not anti-male, and that's something you see so much in Western entertainment now that it's just insane. And this is the sort of latest example here. This is the Netflix series Adolescence. That's big, the new big thing right now. So you notice so this was on the right, the sort of killer that it inspired the series, and then they got the headline that they used. He stabbed the schoolgirl in white hot anger. Interesting that they used the word white there. But in Adolescence, the actor they chose was, of course, a white kid. They don't want to choose a black kid for some reason. I don't know why. Actually, we all know why. We all know why they don't want to choose the black kid, because you I think one of the reasons for this Adolescence is to show white boys, young white kids, they've got issues, or white men in general, or men or boys in general are just inherently violent. They've got issues. We gotta do something to save these kids. We're not sedating them enough, and they're a danger to society. And this is what you get from Western entertainment. Meanwhile, Japanese entertainment just wants to give you cute cat girls doing cute dances. They're not trying to make and cats playing guitars and stuff. They're not trying to make sure that women are represented properly, or there's something of that nature. We gotta make our women super strong and tough and defying stereotypes. They're not, we need to make our samurais black. Hey, do you want your Japanese game to have black people in it? No? Well, too bad. We're a Western studio, and of course we felt bad about the whole George Floyd thing, so let's shove a black guy into it. But let's kind of move on. This kind of rolls into it, and this is maybe kind of, you could kind of say, westernized design, but this is a Lincoln Carpenter here from PC Gamer. Actually, PC Gamer came out with a decent article here talking about Wilds and how it kind of moved away from Monster Hunter. So he reads here, in the first dozen hour, Monster Hunter Wilds felt like a new friend anxious about showing its true weirder colors. Throughout low rank, Wild seemed convinced it had to curb its own character, throwing up guardrails in an effort to keep a dinosaur sword fighting pleasantly agreeable. Even before selling 8 million copies in 3 days, it's clear Wilds would attract Monster Hunter's widest audience yet. Maybe the attention made Capcom nervous. Like a real friendship, the kind that wouldn't shame you for a 1 a.m. text about whatever Wikipedia. Yeah, this is dumb. But he's, writers gotta be writers. Monster Hunter at its best is once it gets to the sicko stuff. Wild eventually finds the confidence, but takes until after the credits roll to get there. And he talks about low rank Wilds breaks from Monster Hunter tradition, where progression meant hunting one difficulty tier until you unlock a priority quest that bumps you to the next hunter rank. That's how it was done before. But unfortunately, it goes to a much story focused, where you have the on rails sacred writing, which is just terrible. I don't know why they give you these on rail where you're just sort of listening to people talk while you walk through the woods or some other, like a valley or whatever crap. It's awful. Just such an awful way to do it. And like you're just stuck, you feel like you're stuck with these people for the ride, all the characters, which, like I said, I don't mind some of them. I think you just get exposed so much to people like Nada and Alma and Gemma that you don't have control over what you do during the story quests. It feels very constrictive. And for Monster Hunter Wilds to advertise it as open world, it is crazy. And he continuing on with the article. However baffling it could be, Monster Hunter pulled me in a decade ago because building familiar with this system always folded back into something I could put to use. Armor sets with seemingly useless stamina skills become invaluable once I knew how hungrily bows and dual blades eat up the stamina bar. After understanding I could steadily craft life-saving max potions. Every hidden nook with the Mangdora mushrooms became a sacred grove. And this is also kind of something that the sacred and like the auto running to the monster and, not tracking the monster at all. You kind of lose out on some of the exploration to it. You just go straight ahead, and it's almost like, I don't want to say it's like a rail shooter, but you're like on rails in a sense that you just hit up and boom, it takes you there. Wilds said offers a much more linear path. The story beats hit for me every time Alma gives me permission to murk a creature. I hated that part, but to each their own. But I finished every cutscene hoping the next step would be, all right, now just hunt some stuff for a while. Exactly. The pacing just rams you right through the story. And never gives you time to like, hey, just let's investigate some monsters around the area. And for the high rank, it's just so much better. Brings you back into the traditional Wilds. But this is what they wanted to do, and I think a lot of it was they wanted to make it more appealing to a Western audience. They want to make it more appealing to newer players, and they thought like, hey, if we just put them through the story, make it like shiny, have a lot of cutscenes, they're gonna get through it. That's like the easiest way to sort of wean them into what Monster Hunter is. To me, like the returning players, the Monster Hunter faithful, it just ended up being an annoying time, an annoying like 12 hours to get through it. And then of course in high rank, the majority of the time you'll be playing it, if you're really into Monster Hunter, it's a fraction of what you do, like maybe a quarter of what I played was the story, low rank, and then the rest is high rank, which is much more enjoyable. But that's like I said, some of the thing, and Capcom's been pretty guilty about it. Some of their character designs lately have been very westernized, and it's kind of weirding me out. I don't know what's going on with them. They do seem like they have like a DEI department. I'm kind of worried that Capcom's going in a bad direction, and they're still making good games. They still have like a solid foundation, but it's showing cracks. So who knows if Capcom is going to go the way of the West, or they're going to like turn around and start making some really unique Japanese games in the future. And this was kind of an interesting topic. This is from a while back. This is March 10th by Harvey Randall. But Japanese gay producer argues that thick thighs on anime girls are a natural product of economic recession. Altair, a Japanese RPG series, as you might expect, filled with conventionally attractive anime people. An upcoming entrant in the series, Altair Yuma, Alchemist of Memories and the Envision Land. What a title. Now that's a Japanese title. It's no exception. Has big shoes to fill. It says, see the game's protagonist Riza made waves among its fan base due to having body fat on her legs. How daring. Speaking about these incredible past achievements in anime girls technology, my tongue is wedged in my cheek. Juzu, I don't know why he's saying that tongue in cheek, but I wouldn't. I think it's great. Producer Juzu Ozoi told For a Gamer that Riza took off with fans because of the economy. No, really. This is just my perception. This is his theory. I think the economy has an influence on what design becomes popular. There are certain types of characters that are needed in times of recession. These types are characters that are embraced only when the economy is booming. Then goes on to note, trends like plump figures are more common during a recession. While this sounds bonkers, after doing some Googling, it's not entirely without basis in reality. Some studies have found that hungrier men prefer more filled out, mature figures. Even when the difference is just literally I'm entering this dining hall to eat or exiting with a full stomach. It's also a drum banged on by fashion industry circa 2005, which had to be taken with a pinch of salt, but taken nonetheless. So is there an actual scientific reason that men prefer thick women? I don't know. Maybe poverty and thick women I'm not gonna make I'm not gonna make a black joke here, but you never know. It was kind of interesting. A recession. Roll where you see thicker anime girls because of the recession. I don't know. Hopefully they don't get too thick. I don't we don't need fatty anime girls in our future. But though I mean there was this too. Like what the heck's this? People really like thicker. I don't know. I think this is some sort of like brain worm as obesity just keeps going up. People just keep trying to make this a thing. Maybe that's my own theory. Let me take a drink. This next article was foot. I just hate it. I included it because I hate Joshua Woolens. I think he's a complete Marxist. If you ever need reminding that journalists are awful, I included this article for your enjoyment. Take a drink here. Because this is the title. Space Marine 2 CEO puts the boot into Saint Row team's twitching corpse. This is very interesting imagery here from his private jet. Who's going to fund the next game after that disaster? Call me soft. No, I'm going to call you, well, I'm not going to say what I want to call you, Josh, but soft, I guess, would be one of the things. But I'm still sad about the sudden undignified death of Volition, the 20-year-old Saints. I'm not, because this is what they tried to go. They tried to go full woke, like let's gay up our game with, a ton of minorities and just effeminate people. When it was about like having goofy, it really was sort of like goofy, irreverent sort of crime, that kind of stuff. Saints Row 3 was a lot of fun. And sure, maybe like you do have to kind of at some point bring it back down to earth, but then bring it down to earth with just making like these weesh, ugly. Let's see, what's a Saint Rose reboot? If I can get a reboot, if I can bring up an image here of these characters. Oh yeah, here we go. So this was their great characters. We've got a nerdy black guy. Oh, super smart, tough Latino, strong, shortcut black chick, and then a feminine Mexican dude. Feminine twink Latino guy. Wow. How did Violation go wrong here? It's crazy. It's really crazy. I don't know what went wrong. I'm so sad they went out of business. Oops. But anyway, so I don't feel bad about it. And then it got executed by the Embracer Group after a latter $2 billion mystery deal pitches a groundbreaking strategic partnership collapsed at the last minute. Like, look, their games were not selling. You're trying to they're like a casualty of Embracers, Embracer bought up a lot of stuff during the big boom when there was a shitload of inflation. And then, of course, that came crashing down, and they got caught holding the bag. They held for too long. So Embracer scrambling to stay afloat. Volition's final game, Reboot of Saint Row, met with lukewarm critical and commercial response. Writing was on the wall for the developer that made Red Faction and sent it back in the day. It was a shad stocking turn. Again, it was garbage. It was a garbage game. People didn't like it. So, the former Embracer interim chief operating officer Matthew Karch, who recently took the opportunity to put the boot into the dearly departed studio in a chat with GameFile head on Karch's private jet. Oh, it's on a private jet, guys. That's bad. It's bad to own a private jet. Saint Row team's gone, said Karch. They were so expensive for what they were. They didn't know what they were building. They didn't have any real direction. It couldn't last. And so who's going to fund them to the next game after that disaster? Which, shall we say, is an unsentimental assessment, but a cold, clear light of day. I can't fault Karch's logic. Volition's final 3 games before it went to the farm upstate were Gat Out of Hell, Agents of Mayhem, and the rebooted Saint Rose. None of them met with critical and commercial success, and the story legacy did not meet mean much to the company's bosses and shareholders getting tired of throwing good money after bad. So they just fell apart. And I've even like heard some sort of like interviews from like a studio insider, which, you know, may or may not be true. But the insider basically said like there was some wokeness, like really loud, angry people, but generally there just was like zero direction. It was just directionless. You know, some people want to do something, higher ups want to do something else. They were actually doing, you know, sort of like testing, you know, like audience testing, where they get, you know, like what's called when you get like an audience in to test the game, or like you ask like random people questions, you know, bring them in for like focus groups. That's the word I'm looking for. They were like doing focus group testing for ideas in Saint Row and then using that feedback. If you're making a game using focus groups, you have just gone completely off the rails. It's just done at that point. Just there's no artistic integrity in it. So it's no wonder that Saints Row just completely fell apart, because the leadership was just awful. But Karch goes on, it would be nice in an ideal world for everyone to have a job. The days of throwing money at games, other than maybe the GTAs of the world, is over. Instead, Karch reckons it's time, calls for reduced efficiency. The business needs to mature. It doesn't. If it doesn't, the whole business is in trouble. Unfortunately, that means layoffs, which certainly sounds like hard-headed business guy talk. I mean, Karch, who knows? I hate the business part of the video game things. I know you have to like stay under budget. You need to be efficient. But a lot of the stuff is like business people is part of the problem. There's this like giant overhead, so many like HR managers and like because like they're busy trying to like, you got guys trying to like do offshore work or bring in temp help, and then like these giant teams. Apparently Shadow's credits are like an hour long. You got like 3,000 people working on a game, and then meanwhile studios that have, you know, like 64 people in it are just blowing them out of the water. Like how does like 64 people beat 3,000 people? Like you've got to have some issues at that point when it comes to making video games. It certainly sounds like hard-headed business guy talk, but I can't help but note that Karch's judicious, unromantic cost-cutting only seems to be extended to people who make a lot less than his fellow. Oh no, he makes too much money. C-suite executives do. So again, Joshua just fills this whole thing with this commie garbage. Oh, he's making money. When it comes to Volitions, he's ready to swing the axe. When it comes to Embracer Group CEO, who bets so much future on a $20 billion deal, Karch confirms with Karch is quick to spring to his defense. Oh, he just loves his fellow millionaires. And poor Volition. It just goes downhill from here, where he says, but Karch's statement seems like a prime example of the kind of executive doublethink that so many of us who don't make six-figure salaries find so distasteful and unfair. Oh, it's unfair. Tell me it's not true, Joshua. When someone has to pay for a botched $2 billion deal. Again, Volition made shitty games. They were a shitty company. They just fell apart. They lost the sauce here. To like blame it on the Embracer Group is Saber is part of the Embracer Group. Guess what? Saber made an amazing game. Space Marine 2 did fantastic. Space Marine 3 has already been announced. Like that is a studio on the upswing and not the downswing like Volition was. They were right to cut Volition. It was a good idea. It's all too willing to make the hard choices that cost devs their livelihoods. Like if you're making this, I'm glad you don't. If you're making something like this, these are your characters. I'm glad you don't have a livelihood. Get out of the industry. This is garbage. But when someone suggests that the bosses who set up those deals might face consequences too, well, no, that's just not how it works. Sorry, Joshua. We don't live in a communist paradise here, where just rich people that you're jealous of get their comeuppance. Why didn't it link to his Blue Sky account here? Why is it only X? That's odd. But yeah, Joshua Woolens, total commie. And I'm glad Embracer's dead. I'm glad Volition's dead. Good for them. Get the axe. Not that I like like Matthew Karch or whatever his name is. Don't like him all that much either. I like the business part is another huge thing because that just comes with a giant overhead, and a lot of these executives. I don't want executives making decisions. I want artists, but you still need that business part of them to give them guardrails and keep them in it. Yeah, it was awesome. I loved Saint Rose 3, but the stuff that seems to come after like this, I don't want this. They just sort of like lost it after Saints Row 3. It just seemed like it went downhill. Like maybe it seemed like that was like the sort of like last gasp of like the, hey, let's just have fun, let's be stupid, like let's just make, fun sort of like guy entertainment. And I don't know if you can do that like multiple times in a row, because you can't like one up. At some point they lost the ability to sort of one up themselves because everyone just became so butt blasted about anything remotely offensive. So they just couldn't do that anymore. They couldn't make jokes, off-color jokes, because that might offend somebody. And at that point, how can you be over the top and irreverent in this environment? I just don't think you can. And that was the real, like, maybe death knell for Saints Row, is just the environment, and the industry just couldn't allow for something like that anymore. But let's move on to the next story. This was kind of interesting. So this is the United Nations here. Let me take a drink. United Nations asked Helldiver Studio Arrowhead to give a talk on psychological manipulation. Could we brainwash an entire community to fight for a fascist state? Would be okay with that? Turns out, yeah. Would we be okay with that? Turns out, yeah. Kind of a confusing title. So if you played Helldivers 2, more than about 15 seconds, you're probably well acquainted with the game's wiry sense of humor. A la Starship Troopers, the game sees players dying in droves as a total soldiers, the name of a theoretical democratic utopia. Not that they'd see it, as they're too busy getting torn apart by giant bugs and landing sudden supply drops on each other's heads. And a talk at the 2025's Game Developers Conference titled Helldivers Capturing Lightning in a Bottle, CEO Johan Palsted reiterated for anyone that out of the loop, yes, the game is meant to be ironic. The fight for Super Earth was always meant to paint players as dispensable henchmen. What is Helldivers 2 fundamentally? It would probably be a fun co-op shooter where you're put in the shoes of an evil side grunts of pop culture. How many seconds would you be able to survive? Of course, and I think Pilstead really doesn't understand the appeal of his game, which is kind of crazy for the guy that like made it. But because I don't think the idea, they're never treated as evil by the game itself. They're treated as heroes. If they actually did successfully make them evil, or try to make them evil, then I don't think it would be as fun. And it actually makes me worried if they try and like make a 3 and they try to lean heavily more onto the like you're the bad guys thing. I don't think they're gonna find it has the same it's the same fun. Of course, you might start to wonder how fun it'll actually be once you're considered the implication of dressing up players in fascist uniforms and calling them to arms of the banner of imperial state to die and die again in the name of democracy. We asked ourselves, could we brainwash the entire community to fight for a fascist state? Would they? Would they be okay with that? And it turns out, yeah, actually, Pilstead said in their talk. Look, I mean, the setting is fun. And the idea of, like, fighting and dying, they want to call it fascist state for, like, Earth. Like, the last sort of bastion of humanity in a sort of like a galactic empire. It's very a la Warhammer 40K. The setting is very interesting and fun. And, guys like going to war and killing aliens. That's cool. But it wasn't just players. The fascism part, I guess in a way it does have an appeal because, like there's absolute authority. You're fighting for this absolute authority that is the protector of Earth. There's something very good to it. Even if they try to make it bad, there's always this like, as opposed to what? Like the giant killer bugs, the the robots, killer robots or killer squid aliens. Like what isn't good about it? And this is, I think, what leftists don't understand is they don't have, I don't know if it's like empathy for their own fellow man, but like there's this weird disconnect where they don't relate to their own people. They'd sooner empathize with bugs or aliens than human beings, which is, I guess, that's leftism for you, but whatever. But it wasn't just players whose heads were turned by the by Helldivers' sardonic spin on Imperial Warplayer. They were also garnered attention of a little I hate the way they were. Have you heard of the UN? This little organization you might have heard called the United Nations. Great writing. Actually, we got a message from the UN asking if we'd talk about, in some form, about psychological defense against manipulation. Yeah, the UN's really concerned about this kind of stuff. Like, how do we get by it? Guys, not enough people are dying for Ukraine. How could we get them to die for Ukraine more? Wouldn't that be cool? Finding the right tone and using imagery is almost an educational way. We do it all in fun and good spirits. I actually try to get people to recognize the science of what is a totalitarian state. Like, when they all make you get a jab in order to interact with people in daily life, is that a totalitarian state? Or when they arrest you for tweets, is that totalitarian? Kind of sounds like it, but couldn't be me. I don't know. What do I know? I think the Helldivers are cool. Or unironically cool. Give me a second. I need to take a drink. Let's continue reading. It's unclear if Arrowhead actually had any further discussion with the UN, but it speaks volumes for the game's far-reaching influence and effective risks on fascist propaganda. The game's not unfamiliar with those sort of discussions, but rarely does one invite them so bluntly. It is, to me, it's like so bizarre that, like Sweden, the Devscom Company, its eugenics program up till 1990s. It is so funny that they make this art, but I don't think they really understand it. To drive the point home and prevent Helldivers 2 from getting too depressing, Arrowhead pulled on the shining patriotic aesthetics of the US, EU, and the UN itself as mantras of regimes, as well as the mantras of regimes like Nazi Germany and North Korea. It creates a pleasing aesthetic because there's something totalitarian regimes are really good at, pleasing aesthetics. Ah, yes, because pleasing aesthetics is what makes fascism. I mean, it is an important part to have a really good, solid aesthetics, but the way these communists have sort of rejected it, or leftists have rejected it, is kind of bizarre. I think aesthetics are great. It's hard to imagine Helldivers without a satirical stormtroopers in every corner of the galaxy. Players have certainly spotted the game called armed with easier role-playing, joking, and otherwise. Combined Helldivers 2's novel's approach to live service. Blah, blah, blah. It seems Arrowhead is better at indoctrinating loyal soldiers than one might expect. Though given Magicka's bewildering Vietnam expansion, maybe we should have seen it coming. And this wasn't the end of this. Grums gets involved here. Helldivers 2 was a psyop. Really ingenious stuff. CO says the game manipulates players into being fascists. United Nations asked them to give a talk. You start wearing the same uniform as everyone else does, do salutes kind to me, you might be in a totalitarian regime. Good riddance, Helldivers. You and your toxic community managers were the real fascists all along. He's so stuck up on community managers. I guess they were mean to him, so he's got like this beef against them. I don't even get what he's saying. Of course, Pilsen responds to him, always the rage baiter. The other way around, role-playing something gives you tools to be cautious of it in real world. Not tricking anyone, it's just fun to play the part of the baddies. I don't understand why he thinks the Helldivers are the baddies. It's bizarre to me. Like, the only other factions are literally want to kill you. So what's so bad about it at that point? I guess they can't understand the gray in that, but anyway. It was so funny to see him get involved in this. It's a sigh. Helldivers 2 was a fun game. It's a fun game. It's a fun setting. I don't see why you need to make it any more than that. Of course, they're talking about it. And then, of course, you respond like, yeah, it's a bit unclear how I expressed this. I didn't realize it could be picked up as something negative. They reached out, again, like the quote of us wanting to brainwash the community was made as a note, getting everyone to roleplay the message of the Italian state of Super Earth. So they see like things like, oh, people might think that we're trying to turn people into fascists. Really? I don't know. That's kind of crazy. And then he's like saying that was a little bit rage baity. Anyway, let's talk. Let's move. Let me take another drink and let's move on to Shadows, which has kind of become the sort of the game, cultural battleground game of the of this month, this certain time. So it was released, and it seems to be doing okay. Ubisoft said it has 2 million players. They don't say 2 million sales because, as you might know, Uplay isn't, is a subscription service that lets you play it for, as long as you have that subscription. So 2 million players doesn't translate to 2 million sales. And if we look at the sort of like peak players right now, it's 60,000. It sort of peaked there, and that might be its peak. It has not beat Odyssey, which was sort of like the last game to be released on Steam day one. So it's not beating that. And I don't know. It definitely seems like it's definitely selling better. Well, that's I guess in top sellers right now. That must be the current top sellers. But if you look at this data, it's doing okay. 60,000 to me isn't great, but it's not like a complete flop, unfortunately. I was hoping it flopped just straight out, but whether it's a failure or not, it's hard to say with sort of the numbers obscuring it, the Uplay numbers obscuring it. If you look at like Space Marine, this is like the game, this is the sales that Ubisoft wants. They wanted a thing like this where it reaches, 200 million concurrent players. This is a game that ended up selling like 6 million units overall, in its, lifetime. This is a tremendous success. And I mean, and it's really, really good. This is what Ubisoft really needed. And it's hard to say with their situation. They have not made a really breakout hit in a long time. Their company's being, lost a lot of its value in the last few years. And I don't know if Shadows is really going to turn it around. This 60,000, people are comparing Veilguard, which did better than that. They said that was a failure, according to EA. It did not meet its numbers. I don't know what numbers they were expecting for Shadows. I know when, like, Star Wars Outlaws, they wanted to move at least, like, 5 million copies. Given this, given these numbers, they're not moving 5 million copies of Assassin's Creed Shadows. Maybe they're moving like a mill. Maybe 2 at best. But the 2 million players is obviously a sort of it's got to be sort of a, just a hype thing. Like 2 million players have played it, guys. Better buy it now. People really like it. It's just, I think it's almost like Uplay. A lot of it's Uplay numbers and not actual sales, because if you look at sort of like Steam sales, I don't know how much, console sales are making up that too. So it's hard to get solid data on it, but it seems like it's okay. And that's like what the reviews are kind of giving it. It's a lot of it saying it's okay. This is by Joshua Willens from 2 days ago. Ubisoft comes crawling back to Steam. Assassin's Creed Shadow blasts past 1 million players in under 24 hours and has already smashed Valhalla's record. Valhalla wasn't released on Steam the date was released, so that's not really an accomplishment. And then it sort of mentions that Ubisoft specifies players rather than sales here, mind you. And I reckon there are 2 reasons for that. The first is more than a few of those should now be able accessing the game via Ubisoft Plus subscriptions instead of buying the game outright. So it'd be inaccurate to call them buyers. And I don't know how much, an Ubisoft Plus player, is a value. How much value is that compared to actual buyers? I'm sure they have averaged out like, hey, if someone buys an Ubisoft subscription, here's the average amount of money that gets us. If they keep it for a year, that's probably like over $100, over the cost of, an super premium package of Assassin's Creed Shadows. But will they keep it for a year? Will they just buy it for a month, play Assassin's Creed, and drop it? I'm sure they have the numbers sort of worked out. So it's not a terrible thing, but it's also not as good as a sale in terms of raw numbers. This is by Fraser Brown. A lot of people, again, the game itself seems like it's pretty mediocre. And this is him complaining that it has RPG systems in it, but it doesn't give you any sort of character choice. A lot of the choices it also has canon mode where they just make the choices for you. And not to mention some of the RPG systems are really kind of seem fairly bad. Embarking on any of the Shadows quest reveals the same hollowness, large amount of either speaking to someone or killing someone, sometimes both. There's not enough to even call it bad quest design. There is no quest design. On rare occasions, a quest offers something a bit different, like preparing for and then participating in a tea ceremony. The novelty is undermined by the lack of meaningful choices, engaging conversations, or consequences. And then he goes on to say, I finally finished the behemoth that is Kingdom Come Deliverance right before Shadows was a big mistake. With Henry's misadventures fresh in mind, the next RPG I played was going to have a lot to live up to. Shadow doesn't come close. I keep coming back to the completely incidental KDC2, which is Kingdom Come Deliverance, quest that I've been avoiding for countless hours. The wife of Blacksmith needed horseshoes to be delivered to a military camp. Her husband refused to make them. It seemed like busy work, but ended up needing some cash, and Henry is a blacksmith after all. So I got stuck in. After making the horseshoes, the seemingly boring quest took a turn. A blood-soaked room, a missing woman, plenty of suspects, and an undercover operation, a fight with knights, and a love story gone awry. It's a quest. If the quest had been in Shadows, the blacksmith might have simply told me to kill the husband for being a layabout, and that would have been that. What's frustrating about Shadows' approach is that it shows Ubisoft clearly understand what makes a good RPG. You can't cosplay as a proper RPG if you don't have what a good RPG looks like. Ubisoft has included the systems and features that you'd expect, but they're thinner than showy paper. It also suggests that Ubisoft simply isn't interested in committing. It's had plenty of opportunities, and it has the knowledge, so there's nothing holding it back aside from Ubisoft itself. There's a lot to like about Shadows regardless. The series has never been better in stealth or combat, and if it is a striking location for a spot of digital tourism. But if you're in the market for a new RPG, this ain't it. It's also worth noting that Kingdom Come Deliverance costed far, far less to make, and I think had far fewer people than Ubisoft Assassin's Creed Shadows. The interesting, why is that? Why is Kingdom Come Deliverance so much better with a smaller studio and a smaller budget than Shadows? This was also an interesting thing. So this was a story, a VTuber, it was Ubisoft, requests a VTuber to do a sponsored Assassin's Creed Shadows stream. She agrees. VTuber streams it as agreed. Not long after, VTuber gets banned on Twitch. It was a complaint from Ubisoft that got her banned because she streamed it at the wrong time. Turns out it was Ubisoft's mistake and they misread the time, but they still blamed her for it anyway. Ubisoft is getting ridiculous. You sponsor someone, and now you got them banned for meeting their sponsorship obligations. All because someone in your staff can't read time properly. This is absolutely baffling. Yeah, never accept an Ubisoft sponsorship unless you want to roll a gotcha with a chance of getting your channel banned. Who gets caught? So this is this Olivia Monroe VTuber doing something for Assassin's Creed. And of course, she gets banned for it. Pretty funny. So I guess they got confused between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. One was okay and one was not, but apparently they told her 7 a.m. was fine. And then, of course, this also never worked with Ubisoft. They'll agree to sponsor, then ban you for advertising their doo-doo game. Not a great, not working out great for them. Kind of bad advertisement, and some of the videos from the game look pretty egregious. This is the stealth here. Hard to say if this is cherry picked or not.
Hey now. Stop her! I'll take you. I do not fear death. You can't hide forever.
Apparently that's all it takes to hide in this game.
Your path ends now. I lost sight of them. You can't hide forever.
I don't know if this is cherry picked or not, but this looks terrible. This guy just bugs out. There's more of this. Oh, this. Look at it. Listen to this dialogue. Oof.
Resentment can grow quietly without much warning after a storm. Mushrooms can too. Shiitake?
Wow. That voice acting.
Back for more mushrooms. They continue to grow with resilience.
Did she have a stroke? What's going on? Oh. Boy. That's pretty fun to... Apparently crawling on the ground is, like, amazing in this game. Crawling away, that's all you need to do. This is another thing Kabuto, is it Kabrutop? Or Garbrutus? Just showing off, apparently return to form. A return. They actually did the same thing with Veilguard. I don't know if that they're just, are they using AI or they're just, this is the same, and they have Veilguard on the right here. Assassin's Creed Shadow, a return to classic form, a return to form. May truly be a return to form. Assassin's Creed Shadow review, a feudal return to form. They need to either, writers need to find something else, some other way to say that, or they're just using AI, or they're copying each other. I have no idea. But this is kind of like dead internet theory, where you just see the same shit copied over and over again. I can confidently say Shadow's a bold return to form for the franchise. Is that just like what that, or they have the same marketing like team? Like, hey guys, here it is. It's a return to form. Here's what Assassin's Creed Shadow is. It's a return to form. And they just send that press release to writers who just, copy and paste it in, because hey, why not? It saved me some time. I get paid by the word. So why not? The other thing that kind of annoyed me, they keep showing this off.
Lust?
A lot of these a lot of these anti-woke guys keep showing this off.
Of 1,000 steps that begins with a kiss.
So obviously a lot of the romances are gay because it's Ubisoft. But I mean, like, chicks kissing each other, like, none of these are, like, super unfeminine. I don't get why this is, like terrible. They should be wearing less clothes, but, yeah. Like, this was supposed to be, like, heinous here. Like, oh, look at this. Women are kissing each other. ESG Tank Studio. Anyone who denies that China are foremost funders of ESG, I mean, he's trying to make the claim that they're adding ESG stuff to lower the price of the companies, which there might be some truth to that. Where China pushes ESG, they lower the cost of the studios, tank the studios, and then they can buy them up cheap. Maybe it might be a stretch. I think the Western creatives just seem to really enjoy adding in. They just seem to really hate men. Really, I mean, this isn't really anti-men, in my opinion. Like, if they were like, one of them was like this really like manly dude, then I could kind of see it. But this is some of the other like gay. I would have showed this off. I don't know why they don't. Why the anti-woke guys keep pushing women kissing instead of Isuke being like this is what you get in Assassin's Creed Shadows. Awesome.
You are more than worthy.
That's so great. Adam Sessler got involved. And we went from blocking replies and stopping after I called them out. I can't stand Grumps when he does this stuff. I called them out on it. So they stopped blocking replies and started just hiding them instead. I can influence the industry, guys. I am Grums. Meanwhile, the game is doing worse than Adam Sessler getting involved. The game's a winner, unlike you. I don't really know if the game's a winner, Adam, but again, I don't understand. Like, why do they not push this? This looks so stupid. This is, like I said, Western games are anti-male because no male would ever want this in their game, ever. Like, this looks so dumb. This sort of like looking into each other's eyes. We're samurai. And like, look, I think there was like some sort of like homosexuality, kind of like, Greco stuff, but we don't need it in the samurai game. We can skip that part. But let's move on from Shadows. Like I said, Shadows seems like it's, to wrap it up, Shadows seems like it's doing okay, but it does not. I don't think it's going to save Ubisoft, to be honest. What it looks like right now, it's just more mediocre Assassin's Creed, and they fumbled what could have been their most popular setting to date by throwing in a black man. There's no reason for Yasuke to be here. They could have made it a really amazing, like, sort of Japanese, very cool Japanese game, but again, they can't make Japanese. They can't make the game to, like, sort of bring it full circle. Japan people like Japan because Japan knows what gamers want. They're willing to appeal to their core audience. They know it's young men, so they make games that appeal to that. They're young men, and then in turn, Western audiences see that, like, oh yeah, we like this. We find cat girls cute. We find hot anime girls cute. They like animes like Demon Slayer and that kind of stuff too, where it's like a young man. Those shonen sort of animes, whether it's DBZ or Demon Slayer or Jujutsu Kaisen, about young men, fighting evil and trying to prevail, through their fists, through fights and violence and that kind of stuff. That appeals to young men. And they don't throw in like these super butch women in there to like hog screen time. It's not about them. The women are supporting characters. Their motivations for the men to fight and succeed. For that or them to protect. Got Bleach with the has like characters like I can't remember the fucking orange haired chick's name, but they have gigantic breasts. Was it Orihime? Whatever. That's what Japan does well. But Assassin's Creed Shadows cannot do that because it's a Western studio and you need to have shit like this in your game. That's what they want to push. Not, men being super brave and, making their dent in mark in history. No, we have to have a woman in the game, who makes out with other women, which, not the worst thing, but this isn't, it's even like this isn't really done for the enjoyment of men. It's to show off that, women love each other. It's just a push, gayness, essentially. Not to, hot lesbians, a la WWE where, chicks making out was super cool. We are bitching about Assassin's Creed Shadows. Baron Castle. Get with the times. Crisis of Shadows, that's the latest cultural game. That is the latest bad thing to be done. But let's move on from this. Shadows. And let's move on to our game of the week. And this is, Star of Providence. It's hard to kind of... I don't like to say it's like X game and X game combined with X game. But to do that anyway, because it's, I guess, the easiest thing to... Oh, damn. I don't know how desynced the audio was on this. I don't know what happened. Or is it desynced? Oh, maybe it's not. Oh, yeah, it is desynced. That's unfortunate. But... So this is Star of Providence. It is, let's see, how would I describe it? It's a roguelike. Imagine if you combined Zelda with kind of a shmup, a shoot 'em up game, and what was the last game I thought it was? It was kind of like Zelda. It's a roguelike, like a Binding of Isaac or something like that, with Zelda and a shoot 'em up combined together. You go through these sort of random generated. Each level is kind of has its own thing, but it's random generated with random enemies. The weapons that you get are randomized as well. Though there's kind of a logic around it as well. So you get gold. You can buy certain power-ups. You have to make choices on what power-up you want. Each stage has an upgrade room. It has a weapon room. It has a boss room. So there is some stuff that's consistent, but everything else is kind of randomly generated. So your runs could be easier or harder depending on what you get, how the luck goes your way. A lot of it revolves around, getting a really good weapon and keeping ammo for it. In my experience playing it. And you know what? In terms of the, it kind of sucks the audio is desynced, but when you get to the presentation, the graphics are really nice. I love the sprite-based graphics. I like the sound design and the music. You got this nice little catchy tune at the start of the starting level. And it kind of gets, progressively more, let's see if I can go into let's see. This is a later level, it's a lot more intense and kind of dangerous as you go into these maps. And, some are more dangerous than others. You'd be doing really well. Everything's going great. And then you just get in this room that's complete BS. And then you just end up getting hit 5 times. And that's half your life in this game. So... it can get very bad very quickly. And like I said, managing your... Right now, I don't think I don't have a weapon. But part of this kind of annoys me, because a regular shoot 'em up, it's auto-scrolling, so you don't have to do this constant exploration, which can get kind of annoying. The runs themselves, I think, only take half an hour, but if you're going into the later levels, I think it takes a lot longer. It can take almost an hour to do a single run. If the really late loops, I only sort of beat the final boss of the normal mode. There's a true last boss where after you do 13 loops of the game and unlock all these secrets. So there's a lot here. I just didn't enjoy it enough to want to go that deep into the game. Something that bothers me really about roguelikes in general is there's so much randomness to it. You don't know if you're really getting better or you're playing well, or you just, get lucky with how the items drop. So it kind of obscures. I mentioned this before with RPGs. what you get kind of obscures whether or not you're getting better or not. And in some ways, like even in this, you always have this sort of mechanic that you're slowly improving, where you get, as you get more points, you can unlock more upgrades, potential upgrades to your weapons, and stuff like just seems to get more powerful as far as the weapons go as the challenges grow. So there's always a sense that even if you lose, you still got something out of it. It's not 100% purely skill based. And like some of the stuff, like right now, this is almost like a cover shooter rather than a shoot 'em up. Dodging these patterns, or some of the patterns just seem insane to dodge. They're not like a traditional like shoot 'em up pattern. In a way, you can just raw dodge everything. And some of the way the bomb system works, I'm not crazy about, but so like it has like the aesthetics of like a bullet hell, like shoot 'em up, and in some way, a little ways, some of the mechanics, but the fact that you have a dash rather than like a focused like move, where you move really slow while shooting, kind of shows you that it's not a traditional shoot 'em up, because it's not about sort of like eking in between bullets. It's about kind of like dodging the patterns and large movements. Yeah, but I mean, some of the bosses are really cool in this game. I don't know. And the presentation's good, so overall, I enjoyed it. I didn't like it as much as a traditional shoot 'em up, but the way the presentation is, I think there's stuff there. If like you really enjoy roguelikes, I mean, one of the main things I disliked about this, like in the run that I actually did beat the final boss, I got this like really crazy weapon on the final level of the run, and using that weapon, I was just able to annihilate. Like before, I was like, I wasn't beating the boss at all, or like even getting close. But then I get the super weapon on the final stage, so I have plenty of ammo, and I just annihilate it. And are you supposed to like? Is that supposed to be like I got really good at the game, or is it just like, hey, the randomness, is just part of the game? So if it works out in my favor, that's a win for me. If it doesn't, that's that's a loss for me. It's kind of like paying, cards. Sometimes you have a bad beat, sometimes you have good beats, and the sort of like RNG kind of, if you play enough, it just sort of evens out, and your skills kind of shows up in the like long-term picture, and that kind of thing annoys me in a way. Like I like to like get real feedback on whether or not I'm getting better or not. But that's it for Star Province. Like I said, if you like roguelikes, it's definitely a recommend. I think it's well made. It's just some of the roguelike elements, in my opinion, I don't gel with me. But overall, good game, solid game. Good on them for making it. And that's it. That's it for the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll redirect to Post Zero. Let's see. It should be on Jack's channel. Let me add the redirect. It's going to be like kind of it should be a chill stream, yeah, where we just sort of banter about anything that comes up. So I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to head over to Post Zero, I should end up being there today to just sort of rant about stuff. Thank you, guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.